Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang!
Now, most of you know I am not a career politician. Yeah, some of you like that. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a problem solver, and I'm here with you all to solve the biggest problem that faces our country. It's a problem that's caused a lot of confusion over the last 2+ years. And the problem is this: how the heck did Donald Trump become our president in 2016? Now, if you turn on the cable news, you have a few explanations. The explanations go something like Russia, Facebook, the FBI, maybe a dash of Hillary Clinton thrown in there. But I looked at the numbers. And the numbers say the same thing that Wendy Hamilton said. The numbers say the same thing that Steve Marchand said. The numbers say the same thing that if we listen to our eyes and we go visit the places that lost jobs due to automation, Donald Trump is our president for one simple reason. We automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa. All of the swing states that Donald Trump needed to win and did win. There's a straight line up between the adoption of industrial robots in a community and the movement towards Donald Trump. It's the strongest correlation anyone can find for any factor. Again, look at the numbers. Now, I've worked in technology for a number of years. How many of you all work in technology here in New York? There's a lot of people. There's a lot of technology in the Yang Gang. If you have your hand up, you know that what we did to the manufacturing jobs, we will now do to the retail jobs, the call center jobs, the fast food jobs, the truck driving jobs, and on through the economy. How many of you have noticed stores closing around where you live? And why are those stores closing? It's a one-word answer. Amazon, that's right. Amazon's like a giant vacuum sucking up $20 billion of commerce every year. It's now pushing 30% of malls and stores to close in our country. What's the most common job in this country? Retail, that's right. Working in these stores and malls that are closing. The average retail worker is a 39-year-old woman making between $10 and $11 an hour. What is she going to do when her mall closes? Nobody knows. How many of you have seen a self-serve kiosk in McDonald's or another fast food restaurant? Yeah, you kind of like them. I kind of like them too, I gotta be honest. They're gonna roll out a self-serve kiosk in every location in the United States by 2020. That's next year. What's that gonna mean for all the people that used to work there as their first job? They're out of a job, that's right. When you call a customer service line and you get a bot, you probably do the same thing I do, which is you pound 000 human until you get a human. I do the same thing, those bots are irritating. But in 2 or 3 years, the bot's gonna sound like this. Hey Andrew, how's it going? What can I do for you? And I'll say, hey, can you take care of this? I'll be like, sure thing. It's not gonna be as seductive as I'm making it sound. For some reason, my bot voice is a little bit sexier than the AI is gonna be. But it's going to be really on point. You're gonna be crisp. You might not even know it's an AI. What's that gonna mean for the 2.5 million Americans who work at call centers right now making 14 bucks an hour? That's a new chant, they're out of a job. It's unfortunate. Being a truck driver is the most common job in 29 states in this country. There are 3.5 million truck drivers in the United States, and my friends in Silicon Valley are working on trucks that can drive themselves. They say they're 98% of the way there. Now, why are they working on self-driving trucks? We know the answer. Well, that's where the money is. $168 billion in cost savings, fuel efficiency, equipment utilization, because a robot truck never needs to stop, and the human-driven truck needs to stop after 14 hours. That's right, brother. Give me that. Yes. So how are the truckers going to respond when the robot trucks come that never stop? We are in the third inning of the greatest economic and technological transformation in the history of our country, what experts are calling the fourth industrial revolution. When's the last time you heard a politician say the words fourth industrial revolution? Just now, and I'm barely a politician. Am I right, New York? McKinsey, Bain, MIT all say that we're facing an automation wave of 20 to 30% of American jobs in the next 11 to 20 years. And Donald Trump is not the disease, he is a symptom. He's a manifestation of this automation wave that's now ripping through our economy. And I went to our friends in Washington, D.C., and I asked them, what are we going to do about this historic transformation? And what do you think the folks in D.C. said to me, New York? They said, number one, we can't talk about that. Boo, yeah, boo that. Number two, we should study that. And number three, they said the same thing. They said to Wendy's people in Ohio, we must educate and retrain Americans for the jobs of the future. And then I said, hey, I did the math. You all want to know how effective? Yeah, look at the math. We are terrible at retraining. Those programs have a success rate of 0 to 15%. And then when I said that to the folks in D.C., you know what they said to that? They said, I guess we'll get better at it. That's what passes for policy in this country. I guess we'll get better. And there was one guy in D.C. who said this to me, and it brought me here to you tonight, New York City. He said, Andrew, you're in the wrong place. No one here in Washington, D.C. is going to do anything about this set of problems, because here in Washington, D.C., this is not a town of leaders. This is a town of followers. And the only way we are going to do anything about it is if you create a wave in other parts of the country and bring that wave crashing down on our heads. And that's why I'm here with you tonight, New York City. I heard this guy and I said, challenge fucking accepted. So that's why I'm here with you, to help create that wave. Now, if you're here tonight, you've heard something like this at some point. There's an Asian man running for president who wants to give everyone $1,000 a month. And all of those things are dead true. But when you dig into our history, you find that this dividend is deeply American. Thomas Paine was for it at the founding of the country. He called it the citizen's dividend. Martin Luther King, whose birthday we celebrate every year, championed it in 1967 in his book, Chaos or Community, and it is what he was fighting for until the day he was assassinated in 1968. Milton Friedman and 1,000 economists signed a study saying this would be tremendous for America, and it was so mainstream that it passed the U.S. House of Representatives twice. In 1971, it was called the Family Assistance Plan. And then 11 years later, one state passed a dividend where now everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked. And what state is that? New York. And how do they fund it? And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology, that's right. In Alaska, they call this the oil check, and they love it. And we're going to call this the tech check, and we're all going to love it. Now think about what $1,000 a month would mean in your hands. How would you spend it? It would make our children stronger and healthier. It would make us all mentally healthier and less stressed out. It would create more than 2 million jobs because most of the money would get spent right there in our communities. Am I right, New York? It would get spent on your rent checks, car repairs you've been putting off. You don't own a car. What am I talking about? We're in New York. And the subway price hikes. No. Nights out. The occasional no, booing the subway. That's true. I'm a New Yorker too. I rode that subway here. It worked, thank goodness. I was like, man, taking a risk, taking the subway to my own rally. This could go badly. I'm not running for mayor of New York or anything. I'm running for president of the United States, right, New York? So the freedom dividend would circulate over and over again through our economy. This is the trickle-up economy from our people, our families, and our communities up. And this would work. We know it would work. And right now, the Democratic Party talks about empowering women. Here in New York, we know that there are thousands of women and millions nationwide that are in exploitative or abusive jobs or relationships that would be improved by $1,000 a month. And we can either talk about empowering women or we can do something about it. I say we do something about it in New York City. So this is the freedom dividend, and this is what we must make real to help us transition to an economy that works for people in the age of machines. Now, we can't stop there. We need to get healthcare off the backs of American families and businesses. Am I right, New York? It is messed up. In the richest and most advanced economy in the history of the world, when we get sick or injured, we are more concerned with navigating our healthcare system and paying for treatment than we are getting well. And it does not need to be that way. I've run a business, and I know that our healthcare right now is the worst of all worlds. It keeps us from hiring people. When you do hire them, it keeps you from making them a full-time employee. It keeps you from switching jobs. It keeps you from starting a business. How many of you have thought about starting a business and then thought, wait, what am I going to do about my health care? Shout if that's happened to you. We have to get this anchor off the American people, and I will move us towards Medicare for all and fix the incentives in the healthcare system. The third thing, I'd like to talk about my family, but first, how many of you were excited about GDP when you woke up this morning? You were like, oh yeah, record high. Maybe I can make a contribution to that. And I talk about my wife who's at home with our 2 boys, one of whom has autism. What is her work figured in at GDP, every day? What is it figured in the market? What's the market value? And we know that's nonsense. We know that the work she's doing is some of the most important and challenging and vital work for our future. GDP is going to go up and up even as more Americans get left behind. Self-driving trucks are going to be great for GDP, but they're going to be terrible for the 3.5 million Americans who drive a truck for a living and the 7 million Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners and need the truckers to stop. So if GDP would not get you excited, New York, what would? Someone just yelled $1,000 a month. I like where his head's at. How about health and life expectancy? How about mental health and freedom from substance abuse? How about clean air and clean water? How about how our kids are doing? These are the measurements that matter to us, and as your president, I will go to the Bureau of Economic Analysis down the street and I will say GDP, out of date, and it's time to get modernized for the 21st century, and then I will report those figures to you all at the State of the Union in a PowerPoint every year. I'm going to be the first president to use PowerPoint. What do you think, New York? That's a PowerPoint chant, America. You hear it? Now, one of the measurements we should be trying to improve is our student loan debt. Am I right, New York? We're up to $1.5 trillion in student loan debt, up from less than $100 billion in 1999. That's up 15-fold in 20 years. And why has college gotten 2.5 times more expensive? It has not gotten 2.5 times better. We have to rein in those costs, and then we need to forgive and wipe out a lot of the student loan debt. Because if you have a choice between young people starting businesses, starting families, buying homes, or staying at home trying to pay off debt loads, I think that's an easy choice. What do you think, New York? This is a stimulus of the people, and that's what we're going to do when I'm president. We're going to stimulate the people. I love how prepared the Yang Gang is. The only thing that makes this better is if you had giant themed umbrellas. But I love it. It's like, look at this. That's preparation. And the last thing we're going to talk about tonight is climate change. It's another, I know it's hard about cheering climate change. Climate change is an existential threat facing our country. Right next to my math hat at home is a science hat. Am I right, New York? The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in human history. You do not need to be a scientist to see that climate change is taking off. So I am for rejoining the Paris Accords. I'm for a carbon tax and dividend. I'm for investing hundreds of billions in a more sustainable infrastructure. But I have a secret. I have a way to accelerate our tackling climate change, and it is this. Right now, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% cannot afford an unexpected $500 bill. And when you go to them and say, we need to work on climate change, what is some of them going to say? Some of them are going to say, I can't pay my bills, I can't buy food for my kids, the penguins are going to have to wait in line. But if we give them $1,000 a month, we can get their heads up. We can replace the mindset of scarcity that is sweeping our country and replace it with a mindset of relative abundance. And then when that parent goes to their son or daughter, they can look them in the eye and say, when you turn 18, you will get $1,000 a month because your country loves you, your country values you, and you are just as American as everyone else. And then when you go back to that same family and you say, we need to work on climate change, they will look at their son or daughter, they will know that their future is secure, and they will say, yes, we do. That is how we speed up on climate change, America. We get the economic boot off of everyone's throats, get people thinking more clearly, and then we can speed up. So these are the changes we have to make. Now, right now, you all are early adopters, and I love you for it. Right now, I'm polling at 3% nationwide. I have raised over $3 million in increments of only $19, so my fans are even cheaper than Bernie's. Thank you, Yang Gang. And a guy named Nate Silver saw those numbers, and then he saw a third number, and the third number was that my name recognition is lower than everyone else's. And so Nate Silver saw that, and he said, we cannot rule out the possibility that as more people find out about Andrew Yang, he's going to grow and grow and grow and win the whole thing. And that was what we need your help. We need you to get the word out about this campaign. I'm proud to say I am one of 10 Democrats who's qualified for the Democratic primary debates in June and July on the basis of both polling and donations. Thank you, Yang Gang. And you know, millions of Americans are going to turn on the TV that night in June, and they're going to ask themselves one question. Who is the Asian man standing next to Joe Biden? And then they're going to Google Asian man standing next to Joe Biden. They're going to find the Yang Gang, and many of them are going to join. This campaign is going to keep on growing. Sing in New York! I love you too, New York City. I love it. Democrats right now are focused on one thing, which is who can beat Donald Trump. And we know that the best candidate is going to be someone who's drawing thousands of Trump voters. Libertarians, independents, Democrats, and progressives. We can build a much bigger coalition with a much higher ceiling to beat Donald Trump in 2020. Am I right? Donald Trump is our president today, sadly, because he got a lot of the problems right. But his solutions were the opposite of what we need. What were his solutions? Build a wall, turn the clock back, bring the jobs back. We know we have to do the opposite of all that. We have to turn the clock forward. We need to accelerate both our economy and our society, and I'm the man for that job because the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Thank you, New York City. Thank you. Thank you all. What does math stand for, America? It stands for Make America Think Harder, and that's what this campaign is going to do. Thank you, New York. I love you. Let's make history in 2020. We're going to go all the way to the White House. Thank you, New York.
Put your hands up in the air. Put your hands up in the air. Put your hands